Joining us now is criminal defense attorney and MSNBC legal analyst Danny Cevallos, and criminal defense attorney and former senior staff at the Manhattan DA's office, Duncan Levin. Guys, we're hearing that the jury right now is actually seeing a check stub, and a check is being shown to them. The first time that they've seen these checks that were the reimbursements to Michael Cohen, they saw a check for $70,000. That was to pay him back for the months of January and February, those first installments of the reimbursement, so to speak. I'm curious as to, first, I'll start with you, Duncan, how you see this latest witness and how she fits into the big puzzle.
Well, you know, we've spent the first half of this trial really focused on this conspiracy to violate the federal election laws. That's what the first part of the trial was about. But now we're moving into falsification of business records. You would expect it to be sort of the more boring phase, even though that's really what the charges are about. And it hasn't been. It's been anything but, because we're hearing testimony about checks that are being sent to the White House and him signing these things in the Oval Office. And so while it's a little dry, the math here is really what's important. This document, these witnesses are actually more important for the document that just got in this morning than what they're saying about the flow of funds. The math here is really important. It was a $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels. There was another $50,000 to a firm called Red Finch, which is really, it's a company that the Trump campaign hired to rig the online votes, the polls, before he was elected and ran for president. So that's $180,000. And there's handwriting. This document that was introduced today through the corporate controller has Alan Weisselberg's handwriting all over it. He's the former CFO of the Trump organization. And he writes in it that it was grossed up for taxes, which means that they doubled it. And that's so damning for Donald Trump right now, because what it shows is that these were false. This was absolutely not a reimbursement for legal expenses. You would never gross up a reimbursement because it was coming as income, and so Michael Cohen presumably would have to pay income taxes on it. So they doubled it because he lives in New York City. They said, well, presumably you're going to have to double it for taxes. When you pay taxes, you're left with the money, the $180,000. They threw in another $60,000 bonus for him, and that's how you're getting to this $420,000 number. Divide it by 12 months, and you're at $35,000 a month. The falsification of the business records is apparent from the math here, and that is what the DA's office is going to argue.
And so you just got into a lot of the testimony we heard before this latest witness who took the stand. Again, is Deborah Tarasoff, who's on the stand right now. Earlier, we heard from Jeff McConney, who is somebody who is the controller of the Trump organization during the time that these payments were made to Michael Cohen, and he was the one who Alan Weisselberg was saying, you need to, reimburse him for this amount, and he was kind of passing down that message. And it was Deborah Tarasoff, Danny, who actually was handling these checks, right? How important is her testimony to kind of corroborate the bigger story?
This is yet another witness who is not a marquee name, but is quietly a very important witness. And look, this is a classic white-collar case, so you're going to have a lot of testimony that is dry. Not every witness is going to be fireworks. In fact, in these heavy document cases, the more documents you have, the more humans you need to authenticate those documents and verify they are what they are. And that can be really, really dry testimony. And we're marching through that. And yet, this is somebody who is not only authenticating documents, but also describing a really chaotic world at the Trump organization when it comes to signing checks and getting approvals. By the way, the process of getting approvals over a certain amount, that's not too strange. What struck me as just a side issue is that when Trump was in the White House, supposedly dealing with, I don't know, the Middle East, he's getting FedEx checks to approve. That seems like, I guess, as a citizen, I think I would just rather he spend his time as president focusing on being president. It's a side issue. What this is appearing to show is that as this case moves on, it appears doubtful that the prosecution is going to have much in the way of direct evidence where somebody takes the stand and says, Donald Trump told me to gross up these payments, falsify these business entries, and he said it was because of the campaign. That's not a problem for the prosecution. Prosecution uses circumstantial evidence, and the jury can draw inferences from that evidence. And that's exactly what they're doing here. They're not going to have that kind of direct evidence. That's the way Donald Trump did business. He insulated himself. But the defense is pointing out on cross, as you would expect them to, that just because he may have signed documents doesn't mean that he was staring at them or scrutinizing them or that he was intensely involved. And in fact, it was really Alan Weisselberg you dealt with most of the time. Yes, it was. These are classic inroads they're going to make to show that Donald Trump may have been the boss, but he wasn't the micromanager the prosecution is making him out to be.
So, Duncan, if it was Donald Trump who gave that ultimate stamp of approval by signing these checks, can you draw that direct line that he, too, was tied to the falsification of the business records?
I think what the prosecution is trying to do is parallel these two different cases, right? They have two cases in one. One is this conspiracy, David Pecker, the National Enquirer, Michael Cohen, and Donald Trump, to show that Donald Trump had knowledge of it, that Michael Cohen wasn't acting alone. And now, as we get into this phase of the trial, they're just using inferences to show that Donald Trump knew about the falsification in the business records. He was signing the checks. He knew it was $35,000. What else was it for? That he's the kind of guy who wasn't just signing checks and not paying attention to it. He wanted these checks to be coming to him. He was signing them in the Oval Office, and presumably he had other things going on. He was spending the time to sign these $35,000 checks. He clearly knew what this was about. He had the knowledge of the falsification by the virtue of the fact that he was actually signing these $35,000 checks.